All right, in this video, we are moving on to day 2. We are going to look at quadratic equations in standard form. So if you look at this first equation right here, this is considered standard form. So what I want you to notice is the a, the b, and the c. So those are all values, those are all numbers. So like an example could be y equals negative 4x squared minus 2x plus 1. So your a value is negative 4, your b value is negative 2, and your c value is 1. So when we have a quadratic in this format, we call it standard form. Now, the vertex is not just going to be 0, 0 like we looked at in the last section. We actually have a little formula to calculate the vertex. So I'm going to write over here, how to calculate vertex. So I'll put like a little star here and here. Okay, so in order to get the x value only, we have a formula. Okay, so let me switch colors here. So x value, so it is the formula, so I'm going to say here x equals, it's the formula negative b over 2a. Okay, and those are numbers out of the a, the b, and the c. So we are going to use that particular formula. So then we're going to get a number. To get the y value, we are going to plug the x value into the equation. So I'm going to say here, plug x value into original equation. Okay, so we're going to do a little formula, negative b over 2a, calculate, let's say we calculate 4. Then we're going to go back to the original equation and plug 4 in everywhere we see an x. All right, well, let's do that in these first couple examples. We are going to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Okay, before we do the vertex and the axis of symmetry, let's review opening up or down, minimum, maximum, things like that. So let me actually back up a step. Let's identify, first of all, the a value and the b value and the c value. Okay, so remember, the a value is in front of x squared, the b value is in front of x, and the c value doesn't have a variable. Well, the number in front of x squared is 1, the number in front of x is negative 6, and the c value is 9. Okay, now opening up or down. So that has to do with if a is positive or negative. Well, a is positive, so this one's opening up. So min or max, I'm referring to vertex. Well, if it's opening up, the vertex is down at the bottom, so it's at a minimum. And narrower, wider, or same, well, since the a value is just 1, it's the same as our parent function. Okay. All right, let's do the formula. Okay, we need to calculate the vertex. So I'm going to use this equation, x equals negative b over 2a. So the b value is 6, right? Negative 6, and the a value is 1. All right, so I'm going to go like this. The negative is part of the formula. My b value is also negative 6. So I'm going to do negative 6 in a minute over 2 times 1, because a is 1. Well, negative 6 is really just 6. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that is the x coordinate of my vertex. Now, to get the y coordinate, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to plug in 3 for x in this equation. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 9. Now, I'm going to just type that in my calculator just like that. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 9, all in one line. And so we actually end up getting 0, which is fine. So I end up with 0 for the y coordinate. So my vertex is 3, 0. Now remember, your axis of symmetry is always x equals a number, and the number is always whatever the x value in your vertex is. So our axis of symmetry is x equals 3. All right, you might try to pause the video and move on to number 2. And then when you are done, or if you get stuck, come on back. Okay, A, B, and C. So since it's negative, it's opening down. So if it's opening down like this, the vertex is at the top, which is the maximum. And the number 3 is going to make it narrower since it's bigger than 1. All right, vertex, x equals negative b over 2a. So I'm going to have negative, my b value is 6, over 2 times my a value is negative 3. So that's a negative 6 over negative 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1. So my vertex is 1 comma something. Now I'm going to plug in 1 for x. So I'm going to be doing negative 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 plus 5. And again, you can type that into your calculator. You should get 8. Okay, so you might double check that. And then the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals whatever that x value is in the vertex. So x equals 1. Okay, let's do a little bit more domain and range, and then the next page we're going to graph 3 quadratics. All right, state the domain and range in interval notation. So that means like, you know, parentheses, brackets, things like that. Okay, so domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity. You can plug any x value in for domain. So negative infinity, positive infinity. So remember, these are your x's, your range are your y's. So here's what I'm going to look at. This is the very top of my parabola. So the very largest y value is 8. And since it's opening down, the very smallest is way down here at negative infinity. So I always write small number, comma, large number, and I want to bracket around the actual number. My parenthesis is always a infinity. Okay, domain over here, like I said, negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, range. There's the bottom of the parabola. So the smallest y value is 3. It's going up forever. So smallest is 3, up forever is infinity, and I get a parenthesis. All right. Okay, let's move on to graphing now. So we are going to find the vertex, and then we're going to find the equation of the axis of symmetry. Remember, that's the x equals. We're going to graph the function by plotting additional points using symmetry, and then do domain and range. Okay, take a look at your quadratic. My a value is 1, my b value is 4, c is 3. So it is positive, so circling these answers, it's opening up. So if it opens up, the vertex is at the bottom, so it's at the minimum of it. And a is 1, that's the same as my parent. Okay, I have to calculate my vertex. So x equals negative b over 2a. All right, negative, and then b is 4 over 2 times a is 1. So that's negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. Okay, to get the y value, let's plug in negative 2. So y is going to equal, put in parentheses, negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 3. Now, if you use your calculator, don't forget the parentheses around the negative, or else your calculator won't square it correctly. So this should simplify to negative 1. Okay, vertex is negative 1. Axis of symmetry is going to be x equals negative 2, just that x coordinate. And then now make your t-chart. Okay, remember, put the vertex in the middle, negative 2, negative 1. So I'm going to pick 2 numbers below negative 2, 2 numbers above. So I'm on the negative side. So the next one would be negative 3, negative 4. And then moving closer to 0, negative 1, 0. I forgot my y. Okay, now we need to plug in these numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is plug in 0 and -1, and then I can use symmetry to get these two. Okay, so when I plug in 0, I'm going to write on the graph and then erase it. So when I'm looking at this equation over here. So I'm going to do y equals 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 3. So when you calculate that out, that's going to be 3. When I plug in -1, -1 squared plus 4 times -1 plus 3. So that turns out to be 0. So because we went by, because I went by ones, like -1, -1, +1, +1, I can use symmetry. So I'll have 0 and 3. Now again, the only drawback is what if I made an error here? If I made an error here, then something's going to be off. All right, I'm going to erase this so I can graph. All right, now plot. -4, 3, right here. -3, 0. -2, -1. -1, 0. And so there's my symmetrical U. So remember, you're going to make a nice smooth curve through your dots. And then we have domain and range. So I like to do domain and range off my graph. Well, domain is just -infinity to +infinity for quadratics. So for range, I'm looking at the very bottom here. So I'm wanting to know what y value is this. So the y value that corresponds here is -1. It's going from -1, it's going up forever. So my range is going to be smallest number is -1. It's going up forever, so that would be -1 infinity. All right, if you want to pause it and try the next one, you can. I'm going to keep going, so if you want to listen, that's fine. Otherwise, pause and come back. All right, let's do A, -1/2, B, 2, C is -6. Okay, negative is opening down. It is, so if it opens down, that's a maximum. The vertex will be at the top. -1/2, it's going to be wider. Okay, x equals -b over 2a. So that's going to be a -2 over 2 times -1/2. -2 over, so 2 times -1/2 is -1, which gives me a +2. Now plug that in. So y equals, so -1/2 times 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 6. So again, I would probably type it in. I'd probably use 0.5 for a half. So we should end up with a -4. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Okay, let's make our t-chart. X, y. Let's stick the vertex in the middle. And so take away, go down by 1. So -1, let's see, that would be 2. Actually go, take that back. It's going to be 2, 1, 0, and then 2, 3, 4. If I can get that out. Okay, now I'm going to plug it in one by one. So you're going to plug, oh gosh. So we're going to be doing, I'm going to erase this in a minute. So I'm going to do -1/2, I'll start with 0, 0 squared. I'd like to use 0 because 0 is easy to work with. So basically 0 is going to wipe this out and this out, so I'm left with -6. Let's plug in 1. So I've got -1/2 times 1 squared plus 2 times 1, not equals, minus 6. Now, when you calculate this, you're going to get a decimal. So I'm going to just keep it as a decimal, -4.5, because those are easier to graph. So if I use symmetry, this would be -4.5, -6. All right, let's graph. Okay, 0, -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, I need a pen. 3, 4, 5, right here. All right, 1, -4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just half. 2, -4. So right there, and then I'm at 3, -4.5. I'm back here, and then right here. So see how it's a little bit wider, and that's what we circled to begin with. Okay, domain, all numbers. So -infinity to +infinity. Okay, my range. The top or the largest y value is right here at -4. And it's coming from infinity and stopping at -4. So small is -infinity, -4 is the large number. Okay, let's wrap this up with one more problem. All right, let's do A, B, and C again. All right, A equals 2, B is 6, C is -3. All right, it's positive, it's opening up. If it's opening up, that means the vertex is at the bottom, so it's at a minimum. And the number 2 will make it more narrow. Okay, let's do vertex. X equals -b over 2a. So that would be a -6 over 2 times 2. So -6 over 4. So I'm going to get a decimal here. That's okay. I'm going to work with, it's a 0.5. So we can work with -1.5. Oh, I didn't mean to close that. All right, now plug in -1.5 for x, and let's see what y turns out to be. So 2 times -1.5 squared plus 6 times -1.5 minus 3. So when you calculate through that, you should get -7.5. Axis of symmetry is x equals -1.5. Okay, let's do a graph, or let's do a t-chart, and then we will graph the numbers. So let's put this in the middle, -1.5, -7.5. Okay, here's what I'm going to do for symmetry. I'm going to use whole numbers. I don't want to plug in 0.5s. So I'm going to, instead of going to -2.5, I'm just going to go to -2 and -3. And so on the other side of it, I have to go down to -1 and 0 because they have to be the same unit apart or else it won't be symmetrical. All right, so I want you to pause the video and plug those numbers in, and then I'm just going to kind of work through the rest and wrap this video up. All right, so you should have gotten these numbers here. And so when I graph it, let me go ahead and graph this real quick. 7, -1, 7.5. All right, so it's opening up like this. And then if we wrap up our domain and range, -infinity to +infinity. And so the range is going to be the smallest value is the y value in the vertex. So I don't know if you've noticed that yet. So see how I've got the y value and the y value. The y value and the y value. Because range is based on y values. -1 is y, -1's in your range. Now it doesn't tell you where it is, but being a maximum or minimum will tell you that. So the more you work with these, I think the more patterns you will see. The big takeaway from today is the formula -b over 2a. All right, if you have any questions,